Hello everyone, as part of my back to school series I thought I would dot around some revision videos, and someone has actually asked me to do a video on how to revise for literature, so I am going to show that. And that is because I have done literature and I have actually sat the exam twice because I retook it. I'm going to talk about that in just a second, but if you don't want to listen to that, then I'll leave a time to skip to now, I hope, if I remember to put that on screen now. So yeah. So basically I started doing literature at the beginning of year 10 and I was going to sit the exam at the end of year 10, and I revised so much. I literally did so much revision for a good solid 2 months. I was doing 2 hours every single night, and I honestly put so much effort in at school. I was getting in all of my sort of practice ones, I was getting A stars in all of the practice ones, and then when it came to the exam I was very nervous actually, but also excited to see what the question is going to be, because that's just weird, but nervous because obviously when you're doing well you want to continue to do well. I sat the exam absolutely fine. I thought, yep, this is good. The questions were really good, couldn't be any better, and I was like, yep, that's brilliant. When it came to results day, looked at my results, and my friends opened theirs first, and I saw theirs, and theirs was a lot below what they usually get, and I was like, oh god, mine's going to be like that as well, isn't it? I looked at mine and it said a C. Now for some people they'd be really happy with that, but obviously for me I wasn't so happy because I was getting used to getting A's and A stars in the practice ones. So I was like, okay, what's gone wrong? I've done all this revision, why is, you know, what has happened here? So I made the decision to retake it. So I decided to retake it, do all of the revision all over again, and I can't remember which month I retook it in, to be honest with you, but I retook it at the beginning of year 11, I think, yeah. So I had all that as well, and I did revision, and I did different kinds of revisions, so I kind of learnt how to revise slightly differently, and I feel like I can help in this video because I know what didn't work and also what worked. So I'm just going to be sharing that with you, and then I got the results back from that and I actually got an A. So at the end of it all, really happy now, and I've come out with an A, so that's brilliant. Just had to put in another extra few months of work, but anyway. So as for the books that I was reading, I'm going to talk about the books and then I'm going to talk about poetry. I am actually kicking myself because I've thrown out so much stuff that I would be needing for this video. I've thrown out so much of my literature stuff, so I'm actually kicking myself, but thank God I managed to salvage the books that I had been studying. I studied Of Mice and Men and An Inspector Calls. This is by John Steinbeck and this is by J.B. Priestley, and basically these books, looking at them now, scare the life out of me because I've read them so many times. I would say I've read this like 12 times, and I would have read this one, I would say, about 7 times really. So basically in this book I have got all of my notes in it, and as you can see going through, there's a fair few notes. Some pages there's hardly any, but others there's more. Okay, that's the beginning of the book. But basically as I've gone through, and this is my teacher telling me this, so this isn't really me, but you highlight it and then you make a note on the side of what the quote means or suggests. And how this helps me with revision is, what I would do to revise is I would look at this and I would write the quote down on a piece of paper. So I'd write it down on a lined sheet of paper, and then next to it I'd write what the quote actually means, what it's saying, and if there's any language techniques in it. So is there any similes, metaphors, even adjectives, verbs, nouns, things like that. Like you know, even you think you're looking for the big things, so the similes and things like that, but even identifying that it's an adjective or even just saying that it's a noun just adds to your vocabulary. And then what I'll do is, so I'll write down all of the quotes from, say, chapter 1. So one night I'll go through the whole of chapter 1, write down all of the quotes from chapter 1 that I think are key, and I'll write obviously which character they are sort of relating to. Have a whole full page of them, maybe use a highlighter with it, and then what I'll do is, either that same day if I've got time or the next day, I will grab a whiteboard and a whiteboard pen, excuse whatever is on this, and I will write the quote on the whiteboard. I'm sorry, I think my brother has, or somebody here has drawn a face, but I'll write the quote down on the board, and I will then stand up in front of nobody, just myself, look at that quote, and I will literally just look at it and say stuff about it. I will describe it, I'll link it to other characters, and I will just talk it through. I won't write anything down, I will just talk it through. My revision methods are mainly about speaking, about getting out what is on your mind at that second, because often when you're writing you lose track and things like that, so that's what I recommend. And then towards sort of the end of the first chapter, I'll then complete a whole summary of the chapter and highlight any quotes in there, and I'll just summarise the whole chapter so that I know exactly what's happened in that, just so that I know. And I would also grab some post-it notes at the end of each chapter. There's 6 chapters in Of Mice and Men, and I would write on the post-it note each one about what has happened with each character. So in the first chapter there's only 2 characters in Of Mice and Men that actually feature, so I'd write Lenny on this side, George on the other post-it note, any quotes that are linked to them, anything that we found out about them, descriptions of them, things like that, and I'd do that, and I'd repeat this whole process with everything that I've just discussed for every single chapter, just so that I get a thorough understanding of the whole book. Once I have done that, what I did is I then thought, okay, now it's time to actually prepare myself for the exam and the exam questions. So I'd go and I'd do some practice exam questions. You can even kind of make up your own questions, but what you've got to do is make sure that you do lots and lots of practice papers on each question, on each character that is a main character, obviously, and even include sort of smaller characters, and think about not just questions about the main characters, as in just one character on its own. Think about asking questions to yourself about a variety of different characters, because obviously you can do practice papers, but it is good to ask your own questions, because there will be a lot of questions that haven't come up yet that might do, because obviously they're not going to keep putting up the same questions, are they? So yeah. And once I have done that and I've done all of the practice papers, that is about it really, and I'll probably read the whole book again. I might even repeat that whole process depending on how early I started revising, but basically just keep doing practice papers, just keep remembering quotes and trying to keep refreshing yourself. Put them on post-it notes, stick them everywhere if you want to. I don't work like that because I can't be bothered, but I tended to remember them anyway. Just keep testing yourself. And this book here, I followed pretty much the same step. This isn't a book, this is a play, and in the middle of it is where all the notes are. As you can see, tons of notes were made in this book, which I think if you make too many notes, which my teacher told us to make quite a lot of notes, that it doesn't really stick in your head as much, and you don't really identify the key quotes if you flipping like highlighting everything. So I would say I don't have as big a understanding of this as I did with the other book because of that, so don't highlight too much. But with this, there was like characters that kind of linked to each other and a chain of events, so I kind of put it in order, and how, you know, it's really difficult if you're not studying this and you won't understand, but I basically did the exact same with the other book that I did with this one, and just put all of the characters, quotes and things like that, and then explained them and what they meant sort of in a little table of lines. So I'd say if you're going to draw a table, write quotes down one line of the table, and then down the next line write meaning, next line probably character, so what character or characters does it relate to, and then at the end any sort of language techniques that you find in there or anything like that. And then obviously do the whole whiteboard thing where you talk it out, just so that you can kind of link things, and often ideas spring to mind. So yeah, that's what I did, and then go through some practice papers, make up your own questions just like before. So basically your table should look like this with the following titles. That stands for language techniques, and you'll just have a whole line of things here to write down. Obviously you can do it a lot neater than me. But anyway, basically this is it for how to revise the books for literature, or how I revise the books for literature. Obviously I do kind of have a good understanding. Obviously you need to keep doing this, you need to do a lot of it just to thoroughly understand, and practice papers are key. Get your teachers to mark them, because my teacher marked mine for me whenever I did one. So get your teachers to do that. There is also poetry as part of the literature course. So if you want me to do a video on how to revise poetry, then please do let me know in the comments, because I don't actually have my poetry anthology. I accidentally threw it, well, I didn't accidentally, I threw it out because I thought I didn't need it. But my brother, I think he has one. So I can do a video on how I revise poetry, even though poetry wasn't my strongest point. But if you don't let me know, I won't do it. So please do in the comments. So thank you for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you've got any questions about literature, I will answer them in the comments, because I can't, you know, talk about everything in a video, especially because my storage is so bad. So anyway, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.